State, we had more than 1,500 voting stations, and 47 of those were temporary in the Eastern Free State, and they've been blown away by the wind because it is such horrible weather that the IEC is describing as causing havoc. And at 5:30, or rather at 7:30, more than 560,000 voters had gone to voting stations. That is about 38.6% of the voters. We have about 1.4 million voters here in the Free State. So that is the situation as it stands. You remember that here in the Free State, we have more than 4,000 candidates vying for votes. They are vying for around 309 wards of the Free State. 429 of those are proportional representation and 329 are ward seats. So these, or rather this is what is at stake here in the Free State. And as you know by now, some of the voting stations should have closed, but because of the problems that we had in the Free State with the weather, with some of the voting stations being blown away by the wind, we understand that that might not happen. And of course, the MEC for Safety and Security here in the Free State, Nthakwana, who spoke to us earlier on in the day, promised us that the police would be on standby even if the voting stations would be opened through the night to ensure that everybody gets to vote. And of course, the Independent Electoral Commission going out and once again appealing to all the voters to go out and vote despite the weather. And of course, now that it's past 7 o'clock, those who would have been at voting stations before closing time at 7 o'clock will be allowed to vote regardless of how long it takes. The Independent Electoral Commission has also assured us that whatever happens with the temporary voting stations, most of which are tents, they would be re-erected. In other words, if a tent is blown away, instead of the polling station or the voting station being closed, what would then happen is that the service providers have been given an instruction to re-erect those tents. But again, the MEC for Safety and Security once again saying to us that when that happened in some of the areas that he had been to, some of the people in those areas assisted in ensuring that the voting stations went back into operation. The IEC has once again said to us that wherever some of the voting stations cannot be erected, alternative structures will be found and voting stations will go on. But right now I have with me the Commissioner of Police here in the Free State, Mr. Simon Mpembe, and he will talk to us about the security situation here in the Free State. Dr. Mpembe, thank you very much for joining us here in the Results Operations Center. Now, initially we understood that there were no concerns in the Free State, but we understand that we now have 3 areas of concern. How have you handled those areas up to now?
Well, I think the issue of the natural disaster is beyond everybody's control. But as the IEC has indicated, we are here to work together as role players. And that's why we're having a prof joc that coordinates all the activities regarding the elections. So the police will be providing security, will be manning all those voting stations. Whether it is moved temporarily to any other place, we will be providing security there to ensure that the elections are free and fair. And it is our responsibility. So the issue of overtime or working till late is, the police are used to crisis management. So we are prepared to be working up to 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll be with you here at the Results Center, ensuring that the people of Free State can really exercise their right. The right to vote is really the very important exercise. And you know, this morning I was phoned by my daughter saying it's for the first time that she was voting. And I said, congratulations. So we don't want that right to be violated or be disturbed even by nature. So we are here full-time, 24/7. The police officials started working from 4 o'clock in the morning. And they are still there patrolling. And there are those who are patrolling and there are those who are static at the voting stations. So the job is going on. Yes, I've been visiting some of the voting stations. The weather is terrible in the Free State. And we understand why maybe some of the tents were blown away by the wind, especially in the Bethlehem area. But we're back on track again. People are voting. And we're just encouraging people to go back and vote to those who didn't have the chance because of the wind or because of the structures that were removed by the wind. But we are here to protect them.
Now, apart from the natural disaster, as you say, are there any other areas of concern? We understand that the key areas that were considered as hotspots, it was Freedom Square, and also some areas in other parts of the Free State. What were the concerns there?
Look, the concerns that we happen to have the concerns were very early prior to the elections. Some were there in March. It was during that time of the BGMs. But now we've gone into those areas. We had a number of operations, especially in your area of Botshabelo, Mangaung and Amelia around Zamdela. But we have been operating in those areas. There is peace and stability, like in the church. The MEC that you were talking to earlier visited today Zamdela to see for himself, and he was also in Botshabelo. Remember, there was this issue of gangsterism in Botshabelo. That was ironed out. The gangsters were dealt with, and those who are not behind bars as we're talking. And Mangaung also is very quiet. There are no streets that are blocked in the Free State because the police did their job prior to the elections, because that was part and parcel of preparations to ensure that we have peaceful elections. And that job was done thoroughly, and that's why really it's quiet. And we are happy for the people of Free State.
Thank you very, very much, Commissioner. That is Provincial Commissioner of Police here in the Free State, Simon Pembe, talking to us about the security situation, but also particularly about the areas that have been affected by wind here in the Free State. 47 voting stations, temporary voting stations, having been shut down, or rather having been re-erected, some of them, because of the strong winds that are blowing, and the IEC saying that in some areas even there is snow. So the weather conditions here really affecting voting in the province. But we expect the results to start coming in anytime this evening in the voting stations where voting went well. And of course, we will be here in the Results Operations Center. We have other operations of the SABC here. Lesedi FM is here, Muzodi FM is here, making sure that South Africans all over the country get the information as it comes. And the Results Center, or the IEC, is giving us the information real time. It's back to you in studio from the City of Roses in Bloemfontein.
Nthakwana Ngatana, thank you very much, coming to us live from the Free State. Let me bring in our